Hi everybody, this is Accusation. I hope y'all are having a nice day. Give me just a sec. I am looking through a couple things here to make sure everything is working. And yes, audio is working. Cool. Hi. I hope y'all are having a nice day. So today I'm doing my first ever just chatting stream. Um because I want to do different kinds of streams, and we're doing Doodles and Noodles, which is when I do art with y'all and we hang out for like 2 hours and I'll draw stuff and we can do art together. We are gonna. I am gonna be doing gaming streams still. That's probably still gonna be what I do on the most regular because it's fairly easy to be like I'm gonna play Monster Rancher or whatever. Um, and we're gonna do tower tours, which I'm really excited about. You'll find out more about those later. But I also want to do like some just chatting stuff and hang out and just kind of talk about things that I like. Oh wait, I forgot to change this. Let's do this. Fusion. I gotta change. I'm so bad at this. Sorry, everybody. Give me just a sec. We're gonna change this. We're gonna do just chatting. Okay, and done. There you go. Hi, Scraggle. I'm sorry, I forgot to change my details. I'm just talking about tabletop RPGs. I'm not doing actual art today. I literally just updated that before you came in. Um, but everybody, as always, we will give a shout out to the amazing Scraggle Bird, who is a fantastic artist, all around cool person, and you should go follow them. Oh, you love table. Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to do this because I used to do a podcast about tabletop RPGs for a really long time, so I love I love TTRPGs. They are one of my favorite things to do with my friends in real life. They're one of my favorite things to do in general, and there are a ton of them. And part of what spawned this idea to discuss this today was the whole situation with Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons and the open gaming license, and people being like, we don't like this situation and we're looking to move into something different. Um, and I was like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I totally understand. So I wanted to today kind of focus on a couple of RPGs that I really love, that are readily accessible. They're not hard to find, like little pamphlets that you have to go look for. These are all well made. There's good support for them. They're games I've run. They're games I've played. I literally have the books for everything that I'm talking about today sitting next to me, because I like having the physical book as well as PDFs. Um, so just to kind of like recap, basically, Wizards of the Coast released their new open gaming license stuff. Got leaked. It was very toxic. It was very capitalist, and like basically, it would prevent people from making stuff that wouldn't belong to Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, and make things that other people have made belong to them retroactively. A lot of the reason people liked D&D was open gaming license gave you the ability to make third-party stuff using an established system. Oh yeah, your group's gonna be finishing your D&D campaign. Yeah, I don't want to like sound. I love 5e. 5e is my. I've been playing D&D for quite a few years now. I started in college. I've played every version of D&D, but the one I started with was 4e. I thought 5e was great. I love Dungeons and Dragons. It's a lot of fun. I'm not like, you know, D&D is evil, but I completely understand people being uncomfortable and not wanting to support it. And I see a lot of people who are like going over to like Pathfinder or Dungeon World or things like that, and that's totally fine. But I wanted to give some other, I don't know, looks at things that I like and options to kind of play with some stuff. So let me grab some things here. Okay, so the first one is. Why are you so far forward? Oh, wait. There. Okay. So this is a system called Fate. I love Fate. It is a storytelling game, and the thing I love about Fate is this. It is one of the things that I think puts a lot of people off of getting a new RPG is it's hard to learn, or there's a really high buy-in, or they have so much money invested in other things that getting into a new system is just daunting. I completely understand that. I run games for young kids and teens, so I know it can be hard to learn a new system. Fate is really straightforward and simple. It's story based. If you don't want to get the bigger book, which is the Fate Core system, which is about $25, and you can always share things. The PDF is cheaper than that. There is Fate Accelerated, which is $5, which is the same basic system, just scaled down a little bit to make it a little easier and all that good stuff. So the thing I love about Fate is you can do literally anything with this system. If you look at the cover here, and I'll make it a little bigger. I don't know. You have like kind of noir detective psychic guy, cyber ninja warrior person, and cyborg gorilla. I always joke that Fate is the system that lets you make literally any character that you can think of. If you want to have a party that consists of a telepathic cabbage, a sentient wheelbarrow, and a glitter-bending kinkromancian unicorn, and a giantess snake, Lamia, who's going to eat the sun, you can do that. You can make any of those characters and have them be functional and fully realized in this system. It uses D6s. There are what they call fudge dice, which are the official dice, but you don't need them. If you realistically, if you have a D6, you can see them actually on the thing. Here's fudge dice have like pluses, minuses, and blank faces. I'll get into some of the mechanics with it in a little bit, but basically, all you need to play this game is at least one copy of the book, which we've all shared on our TTRPG book. It's not hugely expensive. You need something to use as fate tokens, which you can use coins, you can use buttons, you can use M&Ms. Do your thing. Do whatever you want to do with that. And you need some D6s, which raid the Monopoly board or use the free, dice app rollers online. So one of the things that I really like with Fate is when you're sitting down, there are a ton of settings for Fate. Like if you love superheroes, there's Venture City. If you love like romance and steampunk sort of turn of the century stuff, there's specific modules and settings just for that. Most of the settings are really, really inexpensive if you want to buy something pre-made. I love just sitting down with my groups and letting them be like, what do we like? What do we want to do? And turning them loose on it. You can build a whole world very, very simply just by saying sort of like, I'd like to do something cyberpunky or fantasy or, establishing a few basic concepts for your world and building it out. Character creation comes down to not a series of numbers for your character and pre-chosen things. Like, one of the shortcomings I do think in like 5e with, Dungeons and Dragons in general is it is a combat system. There's amazing, fantastic roleplay potential in tabletop games, but at its core, Dungeons and Dragons is a system that emphasizes combat. Most of the spells and classes and abilities work towards combat. There are exceptions, but in all the books, most of the stuff is devoted to hitting something or setting something on fire. So like this system, you basically would sit down and you come up with your idea. Like let's say we're going to use Scraggle as an example. You want to make your character, and you're basically going to start off with a core concept of what your character is, like an identifying thing. It's called your high aspect. This is basically, my character is a wizard detective. My character is a deep space chef. My character is a griffin artist. My character is insert thing here. this is basically going to tell everyone what your character is at the drop of a hat. If you want to be a Robin Hood inspired rogue, you can make that your core aspect. It's, again, the key identifying thing about your character. Yeah, it starts very simple. It's very, very easy. And basically, what's going to come out of all the aspects I'll explain in a little bit, but it's that easy. That's how you figure out like who your character is in the world and how you're going to describe them and how people are going to interact with them. Then you're going to come up with a trouble aspect. This is basically the driving flaw of your character. Maybe your character is, exceedingly arrogant, or is haunted by a long lost sibling, or maybe they are their magic spells never quite work the way they want them to, or maybe they have a terrible cybernetic implant that causes them to that glitches on them. This is the big thing that's going to come up and basically cause them problems in their life. Again, it's as simple as that. It's just tells people what is this person's major issue. Maybe you have a terrible secret. Like your family is all assassins and you're next in line. You can do anything with it as long as it's a problem for your character, for your trouble aspect. And the last thing that you're going to do, as far as aspects go, is you're going to work with your other players to figure out your first adventures. These are all going to give you additional aspects. They are how your story kind of started and how you've interacted with the other people in your group. So maybe, you are going to say, like, your party's going to consist of a group of people, and one of these characters is your best friend, and you want one of the aspects to be, like, a friendship bracelet that you wear that this other party member gave you. And it's kind of like that key aspect of that character is that you are friends with this person. You have a deep connection to the people around you. Maybe you want your aspect to be something not physical, like you were trained by Merlin. You're Merlin's second favorite apprentice. You could do something like that. You're gonna get more of those aspects, and you don't have to start with all of them. You can kind of let the story build out and add aspects as you go. You can change them, you can move them around, you can shift them, all those good things. There are some numbers to the system, but most of it is going to come from your aspects. The number stuff basically boils down to your approaches, which everyone has the same approaches to everything. You're just going to rank how you kind of deal with the world around you. And there's different skills depending on what you want to do. But you might have there's like skills like investigation, driving, deception, contacts, athletics. You can shift those around. If you're doing something where you're not going to be driving, you're doing starships, just change it to starship piloting, and you'll get different skills and things to play with that way. And you can take special abilities. Like you might say, like, my character, I want them to be really, really accurate. And you might be like, okay, so like maybe you have like trick shot as a stunt, so you can do things like shoot down that chandelier in the casino at just the right moment, and then give everyone a chance to run away. And that's basically character creation. It's not deeply complex. It's not something that's going to take you 76 hours. You would sit there and figure out with the other people what you want to do, where you want to go, what kind of world you want to make. And then your GM's going to come in behind you and kind of fill in those holes. Oh, go away. Bots. Be gone, bot. Sorry about that, everybody. But yeah. Okay, I did want to also talk about the fudge dice and the fate points and all that stuff a little bit. So, when you're rolling dice in this game, instead of rolling like a d20 to get a number, you're rolling d6s. A 1 or a 2 is negative. A blank face or a 3 or a 4 is neutral. And a 5 or 6 are good. Most of the things that you're going to try to do, you are always going to be rolling those dice and applying that to what your situation is. So, like, let's say you are a retired superhero, and you want to do a situation where you're like, I want to use my contact skill to see if I know a superhero in this area who's active, who maybe I tutored or apprenticed under me or something like that. And you're like, okay, sure. Take your fudge dice or your d6s. You're going to roll those, and let's say you roll all threes and fours. Then you would add. Now, let's say your superhero has like a +3 to contacts. You want them to be somebody who's fairly good at, they know the players in the game. You would have a 3. If they rolled ones and twos, then it's going to reduce that number. If they roll fives or sixes, it's going to give you additional bonuses. That's it. That's dice rolling. You invoke your aspects, and they come into play. So your GM is going to basically give you a push your luck mechanic, and they're going to say, like, I will give you what's called fate points, which are represented by these little tokens here, to lure you to take certain actions. If you have said your character is an environmental superhero, I might say it's like, okay, so you're in this situation where you have to choose between letting the villain get away and saving this rare plant that's about to be destroyed in a fire. You'll get a fate point if you save the plant, but the villain will have a head start and probably get away. You can choose to just ignore it, but it's a resource that you can use to power things you're going to do later on. It's a fun back and forth. You can invoke aspects and pivotal moments and say, like, hey, I am going to use my aspect of cyborg gorilla to be like extra strong in this moment and lift this gate and hold it up so that everybody can get out of this facility that this lab we're trying to get out of. You can do that. It's a story. It is a storytelling system. If you want minimum cost, I recommend Fate Accelerated. It's a little scaled down. You don't have as many things, so it starts off pretty straightforward, and all of them are good. There's nothing wrong with Fate as far as I'm concerned. There's a ton of awesome worlds for it if you want to play with pre-established settings. But honestly, I have a lot of fun making worlds in Fate. It's just one of those systems that doesn't get in its own way. It doesn't force people to go through 3 hours of like looking through the book to find something that kind of fits your idea. Your idea is at the center of everything you're doing when you're playing this. And I really, really like it. So that is a quick look at Fate. Really cool system. Highly recommend. If you love fantasy, if you love, or if you want to do something different than fantasy, there's so many fantasy TTRPGs, and I was thinking about doing something that was like kind of like that, but it's like there's so many things that are trying to be D&D, and I'm like, we know what Pathfinder is. We know about like Dungeon Crawl Classics and that stuff. So I wanted to do stuff that will maybe let you do that, which is Fate. So you could totally do like a game like with a kind of medieval, fantasy setting, with a Fate game behind it. So yeah, that's Fate. Really cool system. Highly recommend. It's always on my list of things to play. And speaking of, this one's a little different. This is not well, it could be. It could be, but by default, it's more modern. So this is a game called Masks: A New Generation. This is by Magpie Games, who do all the Powered by the Apocalypse system. Yes, superheroes. I love superhero RPGs. The first 3 games I ran, one of them was a superhero RPG, and I had a lot of fun with it. And it's just like, I love superhero games. I have a bunch of superhero games, and I always recommend this one is one of my top 2 for superhero games. So the things that Masks does really well, it is, again, very party focused. It is very story focused. It's a game that is, you have amazing powers, but it's really more about your journey as a hero and your journey with your friends and the people at the table with you. It's about building your relationships with the characters in the world around you. So most of your characters are going to be the young up-and-coming heroes. This is like, if you love Young Justice, or you love Teen Titans, or you love the new Stargirl show on the CW, if you like stuff where it's like, well, we're not the 30-year-old Justice League yet, we're the if My Hero Academia is also a good one of if you like stuff like that. This is a really good system to jump in and play with. It's not hugely expensive. You are going to be, go again. You can buy the PDF. The book is not giantly expensive. You can share it. There are free resources for this. All of the playbooks to play the characters in this are on Magpie Games' website for free. GM resources are on the website for free. You don't have to invest a huge amount to get into this game. And I always kind of like go to character creation because it's one of my favorite parts of games. So let's kind of just jump into character creation real quick. So in D&D and a lot of other systems, you have a character class, which defines who you are and how you're going to function in the world and what you're going to do. In Masks, you have what are called playbooks. Playbooks basically represent sort of the... Let me make this a little bigger just so I can kind of get the heroes in focus here. So these are kind of your template heroes. These are all of the people who are going to be your playbook characters. You're not playing these characters necessarily. You can if you want to. But you're playing sort of the template they represent. Like the guy with the bow over here represents the Beacon. So the Beacon is sort of like the powerless apprentice. Like, it's your Robins, it's your Red Arrow, it's people whose focus is more, it's your Hawkeye if you're, doing any version of Hawkeye. And what you're basically going to do, and this is the same for all the character creation, is basically figure out how you're going to approach situations. That'll give you different bonuses. Like if your character is really good at being, say, otherworldly, like doing things that are beyond the norm, you might have a lot of points in your savior characteristic, so that you're really good at stepping in and saving the day. Or maybe you're really good at mundane stuff. Maybe your character, you work at the 7-Eleven. You're doing superhero stuff after school. You know pop culture. You understand the world around you. You understand like simple everyday things that other people overlook. Those are just 2 of them. There's 6 in total, but there's 5 in total. Sorry about that. And you're going to also, basically, when you're doing stuff, you're going to figure out, for the Beacon, for example, you would pick how your character looks, obviously, and then you are also going to pick out, like, okay, I can have bows and trick arrows, I can have swords, I can be about camouflage and stealth, or martial arts, or acrobatics, or phasing. So you could have a phasing power. You could be like someone who passes through things like Kitty Pryde or stuff like that. And then you're going to look at like the questions that come with it. So basically, like, you'll sit here and be like, okay, so when your team first came together, you found signs that an incident was starting, and then you would ask the other people, like, what were these signs? And it gets it gets everybody talking to each other and figuring out, how did you first come together as a group? You are also going to have relationships where, like, the one for the Beacon is, this character is awesome, and you take every chance to hang out with them. You would pick one of the other players, and your relationship is that you think they're great, and you want to hang out with them. And the other question is, you've got to prove yourself to insert character here before you feel like a real hero. So, you're trying to prove yourself to that other hero. Maybe there's someone who is really, really cool on your team, and you want to step up and make them see that maybe you're teamed up with another person who you were sidekicked with, and you're both on the same team, and you're wanting to step in. There are a ton of playbooks, and there are multiple books with other playbooks. You have, like, the Bull, who's just the big, strong, tough person. You have, let me see, there's the Delinquent, if you want to be like Loki, or sort of the rebel hero who, plays with everything. There's the Doomed, which is this person with the cloak, who, you have like a power that is magical or otherworldly, but you're also kind of like cursed. So I always think of Raven when I think of the Doomed, honestly. You have the Janus, who's sort of like an everyday hero, who has a lot of weird, cool powers. I always think that Janice has like some of the coolest options with like rodent or insect control, bone generation, venom or webs, energy absorption, supernatural senses, impossible mobility, and substance mimicry. Really cool stuff. Who else? Who else? We got the legacy. The legacy is basically you're literally the superpowered person who's stepping up to fill in for you're Superboy. That's basically it. You're basically the Superboy kid. And then there's the Nova, who is this character next to the Doomed, with who's sort of standing front and center. You're a big powerhouse. Um, Everybody has sort of the same moves. You're basically always going to be picking from a certain array of things that are the basics. Different playbooks give you access to different moves. I don't want to sit here and go through all the moves because that'll take a little bit, but most of what you're doing and as you're going through masks is building relationships with the world around you and the other characters. My cat is yelling, Percival, you can come downstairs. You don't have to stay up there. He doesn't like to be alone. He's a COVID kitten. There's literally nothing keeping him up there. I don't know why he went up there. But yeah, there's a ton of cool stuff with this, and you can jump around and try different heroes. You can be an outsider if you want to be like an alien or, yeah, teeny little muse. I really, really like masks. It's a very cool system. I know superheroes aren't going to appeal to everyone. And the other cool thing with this system is you do age up. You do sort of become a fully realized adult hero. And you can build... There's a pre-made setting for this. If you want to use that, you can make up your own setting. They did threat decks with, like, cards. Hi, CL. But yeah, there's a lot of really, really cool stuff with masks. Masks is a little different because it's not a D20 based system, but it is one of two superhero games that I always recommend to people. Magpie Games does a lot of other cool stuff. They did games where you literally play as dragons from different sort of dragon clans and stuff. A lot of cool systems to be had. All right, so we're gonna move that off and let's check out another one here. So I made this too small. City of Mist. I'm moving over. And just get squeezed in here. There you go. Okay. So City of Mist is a noir-inspired tabletop RPG. It is very much like if you like things like Spider-Man Noir or you like sort of that genre of film or books, sort of, grizzled detectives and stuff like that. That's the tone of City of Mist, but it's not necessarily the driving thing behind it, because what you're really going to be doing in this is you play characters who are inspired by myths and legends and fables. I love this system because it does so many different things, and it really does open up a lot of options. If you want to do, maybe you're like, hey, what if our characters from our D&D game were like sort of rolling into a different setting, or you just like the idea of stuff like fables or Once Upon a Time or things like that. Like the idea of playing with stories and trying out different ones to see sort of what fits for you and go from there. They've done a ton of support for this. The book is very nice. It is so this is, again, it's not a D20 based system really. You're working more from kind of what your character is good at and building out from there. So like these are three examples. Like we have like the detective, the sniper lady, and this person who kind of has the boa is literally wielding Excalibur. You basically start off with the idea of, I want to be insert thing here. So like maybe you want to be a jazz singing griffin. You can do that in City of Mist, and you would build out from there. And I think the things that make the game really appealing to me are always, it's very, very open in what you can do. You sort of sit down and look at the different mythos themes, which are all based on like maybe you want your character to be. Yes, you could be a jazz singing griffin, 100%. So like let's use that as an example. Okay, so you might say like, hey, I want to do. When I think of griffins, I think of flying. I think of flying. I think of a character who's very very mobile, who can get around very quickly. Um, so like we might take the mobility theme book, which is literally flying, and you can focus on like building out that concept, and you're going to ask yourself certain questions like, how does your character get around? They fly. Um, and then you're going to look at like what's the most useful form of your movement. uh, is there any downside to it? Like, are your wings always around? Do you have to like make them come out? You play with it like that. But basically you're playing as like, there's things of like archetype creatures, or you might take a specific thing of like, I want to play literally Red Riding Hood. My friends and I did a game where they wanted to play as Robin Hood and Robin Hood's band of merry men, as it were, and basically have a section of the city be Sherwood Forest. This was basically like the impoverished part of town, and they were coming in and playing with that. So they built out huge amounts of characters. We built that whole thing out for like weeks and played with it. Um, it's a really really fun system. They did like this thing gets a lot. They're actually about to do a Kickstarter for their next thing, which I haven't looked at because I kind of shy away from Kickstarters now. I was really into them for a long time, but I'll be honest with you, I've moved away from Kickstarter just because more and more it feels like a pre-order system than what it started it as, which was, people wanting to make something but not having necessarily the resources to do so. Um, but yeah, the other really cool thing, and the other sort of character in City of Mist is the city itself. So all of your characters basically going around in the world with all these wild powers and abilities and things. Some of them don't look strictly. You can be a dragon if you want to be. You can play with like your character might constantly be wreathed in flames. Maybe you literally look like a griffin. Um, but ordinary people don't notice this. Your characters are special because they can see through what is called the mist. The mist basically conceals the supernatural, the out of the ordinary, the extraordinary from the ordinary people who live in the city. The city is basically meant to be a catch-all. It could be, New York, Chicago, insert here. It's nowhere and everywhere all at once. It's every major city and none of them. Um, and you can sort of play with different parts of it. They have done a really good job of like mapping out like sort of archetypes. Like you can have like the docks, or the old town, or the red light district, and you can make your city fit what you want to do. If you want to have the arena district be the center of it, maybe all of your characters are based on famous sort of like you have people who like, I want to be Atalanta, I want to be Hercules, I want to be the avatar of Hermes, and your whole thing is like sports themed or athleticism themed. You could do that, and that could be kind of your focal point in it. Hugely fun system. I really really enjoy it. I don't get to play this one as much just because it's a little harder to find a group for it right now. My friends have played it a few times with me. This is one that, like, I think the only thing that really holds it back is it's noir, and if you don't like noir, you're not going to like City of Mist. That's the big driving problem with that game. You kind of have to love that tone and that setting of it, and I love the art. There are a couple of folks who have done like long-term campaigns with this. It's a really cool system. You can play with it. You can do just about anything you want. It's very very story focused. And kind of focused on building out your group, and playing through and seeing like, how am I going to. I forgot they did a salamander as one of the free characters that they used to do for like the starter. The salamander was this dude who had like fire powers and was a firefighter. Um, it's a really cool game. I have a lot of fun with it when I get to play it. I do. It's a little more expensive than the other games I've recommended today, just because the book's a little pricier. So I would. This is one that I would really recommend. Like if you get one book and share it, or get a PDF and share it. But it's really cool. It's a very specific setting, um, and I think it's got a lot of potential if you want to take your game from doing like fantasy in a older setting to a more modern setting. I actually ran a campaign of this back when I used to do podcast stuff with my friends. Um, so yeah, super fun game. Go away now. And I have one more that I want to talk about today, and that is iHunt. And let me blow this up here. So iHunt is another modern game, meaning the setting is contemporary. iHunt, the central premise is that you are all characters who fight monsters for an app. So basically, you are all people who use this app called iHunt to get alerts about things like there is a werewolf, or a vampire, or a zombie, or insert other character here. And I can move back over now. Ha! Okay. And that's how you're making, it's gig economy. And like, nowadays, like, so many people do like, side gigs to, make ends meet. Whether you're doing Uber or Lyft or insert other thing here. This is just another example of how that might develop. And yes, it's fantasy. Things I love about this one in particular, it is very LGBTQ plus friendly. It has art by the people who actually were in it. There's like a lot of cool photography to play with it. There is the system's good. It's solid. It works really, really well. It's not hugely complicated. You can go it and mess with it so it doesn't like get in the way of like you don't have to spend 6 hours to make your character. I always like this one. I recommend it a lot of the time just because I feel like it's really unique, and it's like if you think about it, like most D&D games, half the time you're just fighting monsters that someone's paid you to fight. This is just being like, hey, instead of a dragon or whatever, you're basically being hired by the app. Um, iHunt does they've done a lot of cool supplemental books over the years through Patreon. I actually back their Patreon because I enjoy it that much. And they do a lot of other things. They're working on additional games and things like that. They're doing like their next game is going to be a magic school. Basically, playing with the idea of a contemporary setting, but for magical schools and things like that. I love this one for the same reason that I like a lot of these other ones. It's very story focused. The setting feels like it actually could exist. If you like shows or things like Supernatural or Buffy the Vampire Slayer or any sort of contemporary fantasy media, check out iHunt. It's a really, really cool system. It's a lot of fun to play with it, and I think it works really well in general, just for something different. It is an indie game. It's not being produced by like a giant studio like Paizo or Wizards of the Coast. It's a really, really solid one if you enjoy supporting indie stuff. Nothing against Paizo. I know their workers just unionized not too long ago, so hey, more power to them. But I think it's fun to support indie designers and things like that, just because it feels different. If you like this one, if you like iHunt, but you want something a little different, I also recommend checking out a game called Monster of the Week. That's another one I'm not going to get into too much today, but it's a really cool system. Basically, Monster of the Week, if you want to play, again, very similarly, like each week you're going to deal with a different sort of monster. It's very episodic. You can do pretty much any setting that you could want to do. If you want to be like, hey, we're Scooby Doo inspired, and instead of Scooby Doo, we have, yeah, Monster of the Week. I really like Monster of the Week. It's fun. It's a fun game. If you liked that, I Hunt is another very similar game that I recommend. Um, just because it's very much like episodic, fighting monsters and going through things. There's different mechanics at play, but it's still a really cool game, and I had a lot of fun with it. If you do want some other like basic fantasy games, there are a myriad of them. There are so many. One I do like, and I didn't grab a picture for this one, so I apologize. There's a game called Ryutama, and Ryutama is. Let me get this off the screen real quick. Wow. Hello. Ryutama is a really cool fantasy-based TTRPG, and it stands out because of two things. The driving mechanic of it. See, Scraggle, you got the taste. Yeah, Ryutama is like all of the Miyazaki movies mashed into a fantasy setting tabletop RPG. It's a beautiful game. The book is a piece of art in and of itself. Um, I like that one in particular because, again, the driving thing is not combat. It's about exploring the world and meeting the people in it and getting to work with the other people at your table. And I think that's something we need more of in tabletop games in particular. When we are doing games, you're sitting with your friends, and sometimes with some games, it's easy to kind of like lose that moment of having that cool story building. There's a lot of cool stuff about Ryutama that I really, really like. There are other awesome ones. There's like Mouse Guard, which is based on the graphic novels. If you like those, if you want to be basically a small, vulnerable creature, you are the map recorder and doodle. Oh, Scraggle, I would love to see you do a map for Ryutama because you're so good at it. Scraggle, you're such a good artist. Like, yes, that's amazing. I love that. I love that. That's so cool, Scraggle. I'm gonna give you another shout out. We're shouting out Scraggle again because Scraggle is always awesome. Boop. Ah. I messed that up. Why is it not recognized? Yes, it is. Okay. There we go. Okay. But yeah, you have people whose job it is like you have like the merchant. You have people who are in charge of maps. You have people who are in charge of different aspects of your campaign. I've only gotten to play Ryutama one time, which is why I wasn't going to talk about it. And I GM'd it that one time. But it's a really cool system. And again, if you're looking for something different. Mouse Guard, you play as mice, who basically your job is to go out into the world of sentient mice and to go into places where there are dangerous threats. Some of those things range from like, cats or snakes to just, a flooded river and things like that. In the first time I read Mouse Guard, I forget which thing it was, but there was like it was crabs. There were crabs that had kind of like overrun this place and eaten everyone. You are basically going out into the dangerous places and you are dealing with those issues. Mouse Guard is sort of like, I would say, it is fantasy because obviously sentient mice, and it's sort of like that medieval, you have swords and bows and arrows and things like that. It's cool. The weather system, the season system, sort of determines a lot about the game. So the world plays a major role in what you're doing. Let me think. There's the Witcher RPG. If you like the Witcher, I will say with the Witcher TTRPG, my biggest problem is that it. Okay. If you don't like The Witcher, you're not going to like that system. And that system is very, very crunchy. There is a lot of just mechanic in that game, and character creation can kind of drag. But if you love The Witcher and you're looking for something different, that is, another option to go and play with. Um, I would say, like, if you're thinking about like doing something that is not D&D and you're looking at different games, don't do something that is trying to be D&D. Like, do Wander Home, do Mouse Guard, do a Fate game, do your own thing. There's so many systems out there, and like Dungeons and Dragons is a great system at what it does, but I feel like it's so prevalent in so many people's minds that just like other systems just don't get glanced at. And when you like say like, "Hey, let's play Ryutama," Wander Home, yeah. I haven't gotten to play Wander Home yet. I have the book. It's beautiful. I love it. Haven't gotten to play it yet, unfortunately. I have so many tabletop RPG books, and like that was one of the oh, okay. I'll talk about this because I literally have the book sitting here. I just got my Avatar: The Last Airbender stuff that I kickstarted like back in 2021. I got everything because I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. I love Avatar Korra. All of my stuff finally came. I'm so excited to get to play it. It's a really cool system. I got a cool dice bag, and I got cool dice, and I got a little world map, and I got journals with all the with a bunch of the characters from different things on it. And Avatar's a cool one. Like Avatar works for me because if you love Avatar: The Last Airbender, or you love Korra, and you're like, I want to be an Earthbender, or I want to be a Firebender. I haven't gotten to delve too deep into the guts of the system yet, because I just got it last week, and I've been doing other things. I've had the PDF forever, so I need to go back through and reread it. But it is a cool system, and I like character creation because you can make a bender, you don't have to make a bender. Yeah, there's a tabletop RPG. Okay. Yes, there is a tabletop RPG. It's fully fleshed out. There are adventure modules now. There's an organized. I got the first. I got the book that I did the Kickstarter, and it came with a bunch of adventures. And it's Wan Shi Tong's Adventure Guide, which is Wan Shi Tong, for people who watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, is the giant owl wisdom spirit who collects stories and information, and has a secret library concealed in the spirit realm. And it has like a bunch of the characters from the show. It has as like statted out characters, like you have Azula, you have Katara, you have Sokka, Suki, Toph, but you also have adventures, like little one-shot adventures that you can run. Like, let me grab one of these really quick here. Let's see. I'm gonna. Okay, let's do. Let me flip to one here. Okay, so there's one called Air and Wind during the and it'll tell you like what era. This is during the Aang era. Air and Wind is a standalone adventure set in the Aang era. It includes the adventure set in the Earth Kingdom as the heroes race to get an air nomad artifact to safety, with Toph Beifong joining the group. So it's an adventure where it's during the Aang era. So people know, if you watch the Avatar: The Last Airbender, Aang was the Avatar then, and Toph is going to basically go along with your characters, and you're going to recover an air nomad artifact. And there's a bunch of adventures like that in this book. It's really cool. I love me some airbenders. I love Toph. I love Avatar. It is one of my favorite shows. I have been planning a campaign with my friends literally for 3 years now, or 2 years now, with Avatar, because they were both like, we want to do an Avatar game, and I'm like, I love Avatar. I basically bought everything that they would sell me for that Kickstarter. It's a really cool system. You can play with a bunch of different stuff. You can do your own. setting as far as like, do you want to do something that is, before, they did the Kyoshi era, they did the Aang era, they've done the Korra era, and with more stuff coming for Avatar, we're getting more animated movies. We're going to get a Zuko movie. We're getting another animated feature based on the Team Avatar with Aang and everybody when they're adults. They are working on another series. They are, there's a dirge of comics and books, and I love Avatar as a world because it's like, they give me this cool cloth map, which is the Avatar world, and I just love the idea of opening this up and showing it to the players and being like, where do you want to go? I really did enjoy Korra, and I know some people don't like Avatar Korra and the Legend of Korra as much. I thought it was cool. I like that sort of like we get to see the world's tech advancing and play with that a bit, and metal bending become a mainstay rather than something that only like a couple of people could do. It's a really cool system. It's readily available. You can absolutely go find that. The PDF I think is like $20 now. Let me grab something really quick here. I love the cover for mine because I got the cover that has Aang on the front and Korra on the back. And the book does a really good job of explaining kind of like what the different eras are and what the challenges would be and kind of like what's going on with people in those times. It introduces like key aspects of people who would be like, okay, here's one. So like Fire Nation during Aang era. Notable figures and groups. Fire Lord Zuko, the Fire Lord who works with Aang to restore balance. And then you have like Iroh and Azula and different. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's if you don't know who Zuko is, that he becomes Fire Lord, I apologize. Spoiler alert. For the show that ended a long time ago. And then they kind of go in and explain like where stuff goes with Korra and all that good stuff. It sets things up really well. Again, the thing I like with this is it is very much a story-based game. You are focused on, getting your characters together and getting everybody to work with one another. You can do a lot of different things. If you want to be a character who's focused on, say, just doing the basics, you can just do the basics. But you can do like they have like a whole list of like firebending techniques. Like you can learn to do like the fire whip or jet stepping or lightning blasts. If you want to do like different airbending techniques, they like the air scooter, or I want to see the water bending stuff because I haven't looked at it yet. Oh yeah, you can do like blood twisting. You could do the water whip. You can do the ice bending stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff. I'm gonna get completely lost in that if I look at it anymore. But yeah, Avatar. That's another one I would recommend if you're looking for something different. The driving problem with that one would be you have to have friends who like Avatar: The Last Airbender. But I love Avatar. I would love to run an Avatar game. It's just you have to find people who like that show, which shouldn't be hard because it's an awesome show. But I can't recommend it as like a catch-all system because it's a specific setting. And while I do love that setting and I want to do things in it, it's like, okay, you have to look at what's readily accessible to people. And like, it's like we were joking with my one friend and I were talking about like, so basically we should probably like rewatch all of Avatar so that we're like fresh on the lore. It's like, are we just like planning to rewatch Avatar because we both like Avatar the lot and want to watch it, and her wife hadn't seen it yet. And then I ended up rewatching like a bunch of episodes the other night because I was like, yeah, I'm researching. I'm just flipping through the book and researching. Very cool system. The components for it are beautiful. Yeah, that's the driving problem, and that's why I recommended those other systems like Masks and Fate and stuff, because when you have settings like that, that's always one thing that bugs me with D&D too. I have almost never run a Dungeons and Dragons game in an established setting. Most of the time, we do homebrew stuff because I have a group of players who want to make up their own world. And like Wizards of the Coast tends to do like, okay, so there's the Sword Coast, and then there's like everything else, and we don't really do anything with that except once in a while we'll do like a book here and there. I'm not trying to bash Wizards. I'm not trying to bash people who like D&D, and I'm not trying to tell people you have to change systems. Have fun. Play the games that you want to play the way you want to play them. But I have 3 bookshelves devoted to physical copies of tabletop RPGs here in the tower. I have run so many. I have a game that is literally a single player's game where you are a mech pilot whose mech has been damaged out in space, and you are trying to keep your machine running until you can be rescued so that you do not asphyxiate. And the entire premise of that game is just your last moments before you're either rescued or die, and keeping the systems running. There is a system out there for everything at this point. There are so many games, and yeah, that's a sad one. It's a sad one, but it's also like it can be great. I need to do like a sci-fi focused TTRPG run through, because like we could do like Space Dogs, or we could do Nibru, which is a system where all of your characters have amnesia. We could do we could do Starfinder, which is a fun one. There's so many sci-fi games at this point, and they're amazing. I love me some sci-fi. They're doing the Cowboy Bebop RPG. So if you like Cowboy Bebop, there's an official licensed Cowboy Bebop RPG. Shouldn't be too hard to sell people on that one. My thing is, play the games that you want to play, but if you're looking for something different, I think it's worth taking the time to do something different. I love sitting around and playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends because it's readily available, and it's simple, and it's accessible. And anytime that I went to cons, I used to go to cons and run games for companies. And they would, be like, here's the system, and I would, run whatever system they wanted me to run, for some of the other corporate entities that make games. I had a lot of fun doing that. But with fantasy, I feel like a lot of those games do take a lot from the plate of Dungeons and Dragons. And at the end of the day, Dungeons and Dragons grew out of a war game tabletop simulator. And it is very much focused on being a game that favors combat. Like, if you want to make a character who, I want to be a ranger who, my whole thing is basically I dumpster dive. I go into like the rich areas and I collect their waste, and I bring it to like the other parts of town, and I give out the food, and I have a raccoon as like my animal companion. I'm going to be an animal companion ranger. The 2 problems you're going to hit with this right off the bat are, one, there are no raccoons in any of the core books for creatures. They basically rely heavily on third-party people to make everything, or you have to make one yourself. You can do that, absolutely, but when you're paying $30 for the book, I think they can make some more creatures for you. The other problem is that character's never going to be like, it's like, okay, so what's your whole thing? It's like, okay, you're really good at infiltration and stealth and those sorts of things. You're an urban ranger, but your character's probably never going to be very combat focused, which I love characters who are not just about smashy smash. No problem with characters who are smashy smash, but like, I made a wizard whose like whole thing was they would never use a spell that would directly harm someone. They would use spells to like make walls. They would use spells to move people around so that they don't injure one another, but they would never like cast a fireball spell or anything like that. And it's so fun to make characters. Yeah, it's very, very combat based. Yeah, so characters you don't want to. Yeah, it is. It's a very combat focused system, Scraggle, and that's just the way that system works. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that it's just the nature of that game. And I have a lot of fun doing RP with people in D&D or any other system. I just think there are systems that lend themselves a lot better to that. You know, whether that's Fate, whether that's Masks, whether that is literally sitting there with a D20 and making something up yourself. You can make an RPG. Anybody can. I have like a drawer full of tabletop RPG systems that I made up from nothing. I used to do it all the time, and it's a lot of fun. Like I made like 6 Minute Supers, which was a superhero game, where the whole premise of that was I'm like, I want people to be able to make a superhero and be playing this game in 6 minutes. That was it. And I had a lot of fun making that. And one person played it, and that was my friend who helped me to play test some of the mechanics and stuff. Um, I know that people are like gonna keep probably going towards D&D. Like there's already a new D&D book coming out, and that's okay. Play the games that you love with the people who you care about. But I hope that maybe some of these might appeal to people. If the worst thing to come out of this is like, hey, we talked about Avatar for a bit, and I had fun with that. I wanted to also do like a just chatting stream, and like, this is Scraggle. Thank you for hanging out with me. I don't have that many people show up to my streams, so I had to do something that I could kind of like talk about for at least an hour, confidently, and not be like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. Um, but yeah, we're gonna do more just chatting stuff. There's going to be more Doodles and Noodles, which is the art streams that I do. I will still be playing games. That's not gonna change. I just want to do other things too because I'm never gonna grow if all I do is play games. Um, and I'm gonna try to do what I'm calling tower tours. That's something that I'm figuring out. That one's a little challenging, but oh, thank you, Scraggle. You're amazing. Everybody, please go follow Scraggle. Support them, support their art. They are an amazing person. They did again, Scraggle, every time that like somebody says like they've got some new asset lately, it's something that you've made. So it's just like fantastic artist, really, really nice person. I'm sorry this is a shorter stream. I don't really have anything else to say for right now about it. I just kind of wanted to do a quick rundown that people could go through and get some quick recommendations. So I am going to take a break. I hope you all have a lovely day. And until next time, as always, play more games and be safe, everybody. Bye.